In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the Autodesk Conceptual Energy Analysis tool. This tool is part of the Subscription Advantage Pack that can be downloaded at subscription.autodesk.com. I've listed those steps here on the slide. So I'm going to jump here into Revit, and I've already created two different massings. I'm using design options here, but I'm not going to get into that process for this video. This is just really simply to talk about how this new tool functions. Now, what I have left out are one important thing that I want to make sure that is clear here. You have to, once you have your massings, make sure you have mass floors set up in the project. If you don't have these and you try to run the analysis, it will alert you and actually let you know that that's an issue. But I just wanted to point that out as our first step. The second thing that's quite important is also to put your location in. So under Manage, Project Location, you can see I've indicated a particular location. This is important because the weather stations that are located around here are going to be used to run your analysis. So I'm just going to move my building up here. Stretch this building. And there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on building project A here. And the idea of having two different massings is so that we can actually compare them. So we'll start out with A, and whichever 3D view you have open, that's which analysis will run. So we're going to first start out with our energy settings. Make sure that we go ahead and check this box, Create Energy Model. I'm going to delete the core offset for this demonstration and uncheck Divide Perimeter Zone. So if you look up here at the top, you'll notice that our building type is going to be an office, and that location that I mentioned earlier is being picked up. Under the conceptual constructions, you can go ahead here and choose whichever construction makes sense. So in my case, for the location, we are going to choose cold climate insulation and say OK, and then just say OK. Once I do that, I'm going to choose Analyze Mass Model. And when I do this, what's going to pop up here is the subscription login. It is a subscription tool, so you will have to log in. You won't have to log in each time, just the first time while Revit's open. If you close Revit, you will have to log in again. So once you sign in, we're going to give our building a name so we can compare them and we'll know what we're talking about. So I'll just call this A. And what's happening here is this is running, but on remote servers, so it isn't actually affecting the project. We can keep working. If you want to see what's happening, you'll look here. So you can see that A is at 72%. Now while that's running, I'm going to show you the help menu. The help menu for this is quite useful. There's a number of videos that you can watch. There's a quick start, which is what I'm actually walking you through. It'll show you to make your mass, make sure that you make your mass floors, and then you can see that this facade, which is dependent on your energy settings, is being placed on the building. Now, the Revit alert here is telling you that it's ready to be checked. And so, similar to this, Step 6 and now Step 7, which is to review the analysis results, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go back into Revit, choose Results, and Compare. So at this point here, we can see our building A. This is the one we chose. This is just a previous project I was working on. And you can see the location, and then you get a number of useful information here. So you can look at your energy cost, your fuel, and you can choose which settings that you want to look at depending on what's selected under the Settings tab here. So what I want to do is actually show you how you can compare the two. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this view and look at our option B. So let's say this is our option B, so we want to see the difference between the two buildings. I'm going to go back to our energy settings. You can see how they've been set up. And then I'm going to go to Analyze Mass Model. And again, the same process is going to run as it was running before. Of course, make sure you give this a different name so that you can compare the two. And I'll just jump back into my help so that I can show you the detailed workflow. This gets into even more step-by-steps, sort of defining the different zones and giving you more information here. These are links to explain what some of those parameters mean so that you can be a little bit more aware of what decisions that you are making. Best practices are, of course, important, and the most important one is definitely to keep it simple. This is really about conceptual analysis, and so it's best if you keep your model as simple as possible. And you can, if you look at this diagram, use a simple mass with large forms, or these are more complex mass. But the more you have, you can see may result in some types of errors. We did get our notification that the results are ready to go. So I'm simply going to check results and compare. And you can see we have A and B. So if we click on both A and B and click on compare, you can see the side-by-side analysis. So you're going to get here your location. So we're looking at our building performance factors. And now you can compare the two. We're seeing our floor area difference, and we're seeing whatever that you have selected under settings again, so you can compare what is the difference in terms of fuel, let's say, from one building to the next. So design options are obviously supportive because you can see that we're using two different projects that are running in the design option function of Revit. And I'm just going to jump back over to our help and just show you a few more things here. The conceptual energy analysis tool will be able to give you energy analysis terminology. I find this to be very useful because sometimes you may not be aware of what some of the things that are being tested in the project. So I'm just going to leave it on this last slide so that you have the steps to go and download the tool.